Did you ever wonder how the ancient Mayans and Aztecs managed to sustain large populations with their farming practices? The answer lies in their ingenious use of the earliest known agricultural technologies in Mexico. Let's delve into this fascinating history. In the beginning, the tools were simple yet effective. They employed basic implements such as stone axes and digging sticks to plant and harvest their crops. These tools, though rudimentary by today's standards, were a significant leap forward in their time, allowing for more efficient cultivation of the land. But it wasn't just about the tools. The early Mesoamerican farmers had a deep understanding of their environment. They knew when to plant and when to harvest based on the cycles of the sun and moon, the changing seasons, and the behavior of the local wildlife. The development of agricultural calendars was a testament to this knowledge, enabling the farmers to plan their activities with precision. Water, of course, was a crucial element of their farming practices. The ancient Mayans and Aztecs developed sophisticated irrigation systems to channel water from rivers and lakes to their fields. Some of these systems were so effective that they continue to inspire modern irrigation techniques today. In addition to irrigation, the early Mesoamerican farmers were masters of soil conservation. They developed techniques like terracing and crop rotation to prevent soil erosion and maintain fertility. These practices were far ahead of their time, demonstrating an understanding of sustainable farming that is still relevant today. The early agricultural technologies of Mexico were not just about survival. They were about understanding and working with the environment, not against it. They were about creating a sustainable food supply for large populations. They were about innovation and progress even in the face of challenges. These early technologies laid the foundation for the agricultural advances that were to come. They remind us of the ingenuity and resilience of our ancestors, and they continue to inspire us in our quest for sustainable and efficient farming practices. What happened when the Spanish conquistadors arrived in Mexico, bringing with them new crops and farming methods? The encounter with the New World was a meeting of two worlds, both rich in their own agricultural traditions and practices. The Spanish brought crops like wheat, which were new to the indigenous people of Mexico. This hardy grain was adaptable and could thrive in different climates, making it a valuable addition to the local agriculture. The introduction of wheat also led to changes in the diet and culinary traditions of the people, with bread becoming a staple food. But it wasn't just new crops that the Europeans introduced. They also brought over technologies that were revolutionary at the time and would have a profound impact on Mexican agriculture. Take the humble plow, for instance. While simple, this tool allowed for more efficient tilling of the soil, preparing it for planting in a way that was far more efficient than the methods used by the indigenous people. Then there were the horses. Prior to the arrival of the Europeans, the indigenous people of Mexico did not have large animals that could be used for labor. The introduction of horses transformed farming practices, allowing for larger areas of land to be cultivated and making the transport of goods more efficient. But this was not a one-way street. The Europeans also learned a lot from the indigenous people. They discovered crops like corn, tomatoes, and beans, which had been cultivated for centuries by the indigenous people. These crops would later become staples in European diets. The arrival of the Europeans also sparked a cultural and technological exchange. The indigenous people adopted some of the new crops and technologies brought by the Europeans, while the Europeans incorporated indigenous farming practices into their own methods. This exchange left a lasting impact on both cultures. The arrival of the Europeans marked a significant shift in Mexican agriculture, setting the stage for further technological advances. It was a period of adaptation and learning as two different worlds came together and shared their knowledge and practices, and it set the stage for the agricultural landscape we see in Mexico today. How did the 19th century transform agriculture in Mexico? This question leads us into an era of profound change, an era that witnessed the dawn of mechanization in the agricultural sector. In the early parts of the century, farming was still a labor-intensive task, largely reliant on rudimentary tools and the brute strength of both humans and animals. However, as the century progressed, the winds of the Industrial Revolution that had swept across Europe and North America finally reached the shores of Mexico. This was a time of great innovation and change. One of the most significant introductions was the steam tractor. This powerful machine transformed the way fields were plowed, reducing the time and effort required to prepare the land for sowing. The steam tractor was, in essence, a symbol of the shift from man and animal power to machine power. It was a game changer, a precursor to the modern farming machinery we see today. But the changes were not confined to machinery alone. This period also saw the development and use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Before their introduction, farmers relied on organic matter like manure and compost to enrich the soil. The advent of chemical fertilizers changed this dynamic, offering a quicker and more concentrated source of nutrients for the crops. Pesticides, too, played their part. For centuries, farmers battled against pests and diseases, often losing a significant portion of their crops. The introduction of chemical pesticides provided a more effective means of controlling these threats, further boosting crop yields. However, it's important to remember that these innovations were not without their drawbacks. The reliance on machinery and chemicals led to new challenges, such as soil degradation and environmental pollution, issues that we still grapple with today. The 19th century marked a shift towards more mechanized and chemical-intensive farming practices. This transformation laid the groundwork for the agricultural landscape of modern Mexico, setting the stage for future advancements and challenges in the sector. What was the impact of the Green Revolution on Mexican agriculture in the mid-20th century? The Green Revolution was a period of radical transformation for Mexican agriculture. This period, stretching from the 1940s to the 1960s, saw the introduction of high-yield crop varieties and modern farming techniques that revolutionized the agricultural landscape. Imagine this. Prior to the Green Revolution, the average Mexican farmer was battling against low crop yields and an unpredictable climate. Then scientists introduced new, high-yielding varieties of wheat and rice, which promised bigger harvests and thus the potential for greater profits. These crops were bred to resist diseases, thrive in diverse climates, and respond well to fertilizers. At the same time, modern farming techniques were being introduced. These included the use of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, mechanization, and irrigation infrastructure. The aim was simple: to increase agricultural productivity and food security. Farmers were encouraged to adopt these new practices, and many did, lured by the promise of higher yields and more reliable harvests. The results were dramatic. Crop production soared, and Mexico went from being a net importer of food to a net exporter. The country was able to feed its growing population and even had surplus to sell abroad. But this agricultural boom wasn't without its drawbacks. The heavy reliance on synthetic fertilizers and pesticides led to soil degradation and water pollution. The biodiversity of Mexican farmland was also compromised as farmers shifted to monoculture practices, growing only a few types of high-yielding crops. Furthermore, the costs of adopting these new technologies were high, leading to increased debt among farmers and a widening gap between rich landowners and poor peasants. The Green Revolution was a period of great progress, but it also brought new challenges. It showed us that while technology and innovation can bring about increased productivity, they must be applied thoughtfully and sustainably to ensure the health of our environment and society. The Green Revolution brought both benefits and challenges to Mexican agriculture. So, what does the future of agriculture look like in Mexico? Well, it's very much a story of technology and the ways in which it's transforming farming practices. Precision farming, for instance, is becoming increasingly popular. This approach uses data from satellite imagery and weather patterns to make farming more efficient and sustainable. Farmers can now monitor their crops in real time and make necessary adjustments to maximize yield and minimize waste. Another exciting development is the use of drone technology. Drones can do more than just capture stunning aerial views of the vast Mexican farmlands. They're also being used to monitor crop health, irrigate fields, and even plant seeds. This not only saves time and resources, but also reduces the human risk factor in dangerous tasks. Then there's the world of genetically modified crops, or GMOs. Although they can be controversial, they offer a potential solution to some of the challenges posed by climate change. Drought-resistant maize, for instance, could help ensure food security in areas of Mexico that are increasingly affected by water scarcity. But it's not just about new technologies, it's also about how these technologies are being integrated into traditional farming practices. For instance, some farmers are combining precision farming techniques with traditional knowledge about their land and crops. This fusion of old and new is helping to create a more sustainable and resilient agriculture sector. Of course, these technologies are not without their challenges. There are concerns about cost, access, and the impact on small-scale farmers. But with the right policies and support, they can be part of a brighter future for Mexican agriculture. So as we navigate the complexities of the modern world, we can see that technology is not just changing the way we farm, but also the very nature of farming itself. It's a fascinating journey, and one that we're only just beginning to explore. As we look to the future, technology continues to play a critical role in shaping Mexican agriculture. So, how have agricultural technologies evolved in Mexico over the centuries? Our journey began with the dawn of agricultural tools, where early Mexican farmers skillfully used simple yet effective tools and practices to cultivate their land. The arrival of the Europeans brought new crops, livestock, and farming techniques, which greatly impacted the agricultural landscape. Moving forward to the 19th century, we saw the agricultural revolution, where mechanization and industrialization brought about significant changes in farming practices. The Green Revolution then took center stage, introducing high-yielding varieties of crops, synthetic fertilizers, and pesticides, which greatly boosted Mexico's agricultural productivity. In our modern era, we've seen the advent of cutting-edge technologies. From precision farming to biotechnology, these innovations have helped Mexican farmers increase productivity, sustainability, and adaptability in the face of climate change. The story of Mexican agriculture is one of continuous innovation and adaptation, driven by the ever-changing needs and challenges of feeding a growing population. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through the evolution of agricultural technologies in Mexico. From the dawn of agricultural tools to the cutting-edge technologies of today, it's clear that innovation and adaptation have been constant themes throughout Mexico's agricultural history. As we look to the future, we can only imagine what new technologies and practices will continue to shape this ever-evolving landscape. If you found this video informative and want to keep learning about fascinating topics like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Your support helps us create more content that explores the intersections of history, technology, and culture. We also encourage you to share this video with others who might be interested. Whether they're history buffs, technology enthusiasts, or just curious minds, we believe this video could spark insightful conversations and inspire further exploration. So, let's continue this journey of discovery together. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share this video. Stay tuned for more exciting content, and as always, thanks for watching.